The next video game crash is coming, you guys. Honestly, it might have been here for years already at this point, but it's only going to get worse, and something I just kind of wanted to talk about. And if you haven't seen already, the Xbox Series X console is now being sold for $800. Yep, that's right, just got a price increase. Of course, $800 one's the 2 terabyte one. Like, honestly, I don't even know why you would need more than 1 terabyte, to be honest, but it goes up to $800. I got my Xbox Series X at $500 at launch, but I can't believe I don't think anybody would pay $800 for an Xbox Series X, and I feel like Microsoft has to know this, and I feel like this is just another sign that Microsoft has just kind of given up, especially on their own hardware sides. Like, I mean, Xbox honestly would be out of business right now if they weren't owned by Microsoft. Like, you know, if they were Sega in this position, if all Xbox was Xbox, there's no way they could survive right now. Especially with, like, I mean, they have all those first party games now with those acquisitions, but like, I don't think they're in debt from that probably. Like, there's no way they've paid that off yet. Not without Big Daddy Microsoft's money. And so, you know, that's just like another sign of it. I've always felt like they've had this sign, especially them putting games on other platforms like PC and PlayStation 5 and Nintendo Switch. You know, people are thinking like that they're doing this out of the goodness of their heart, saying it's like, oh, you know, Nintendo's the bad guy because they're stuck in the 90s with keeping their games as exclusives. And it's like, you know, you guys who think that, like, yeah, like the console war, like, online is silly, like people talking about it and just like, you know, tweeting about it and getting all onto one team or another team, that's silly. But competition is better for consumers. We get better games out of it. I love the Xbox 360 and PS3 era. I probably would have had both consoles if I was in my position today. I was in high school back then. I could only afford one console, and you know, your friend groups would form around which console you have, because everybody at that age, at least, you know, at my level at that time in high school, you can only afford one console. No one had both the consoles at that time. You might have had an Xbox and a Wii, or, you know, a PS3 and a Wii, but never like an Xbox and a PlayStation 3. Yeah, especially paying like double for online service. I think PlayStation's was free for a while. But think about the games we got back on in that era. Like, we had Oblivion and Skyrim. We had like an entire Assassin's Creed trilogy, plus, like, you know, there was like 4 games. We had the entire BioShock trilogy, entire Mass Effect trilogy. We had Halo 3 and Reach and Halo 4. We had the entire Gears of War trilogy. You know, we had so many games. And you look at the Xbox One era, when Xbox really went in decline, where they really lost the console war against PlayStation. We had Gears of War 4 and 5, you know, the 2 worst entries in the series. And there was also Gears of War Tactics. I haven't played that. I do own it, but I'm not huge into tactic games, so I haven't played it yet, but I hear it's good. Halo 5, people did not like the game. I know it has its own following, but come on, arguably worse than the franchise. Series X, I bought my Series X for Halo and Gears. We got Halo Infinite, which was a mess. I mean, it was a really fun 2 weeks when it first came out, until everybody started realizing and seeing through that, wait a minute, this is actually just a huge mess. Still don't have a Gears of War game yet. I'm not going to count Reloaded right now because it's just, you know, it's a remastered for the second time of the same game. So it's just like, I'm not going to include that one. And I get why they're doing the remasters and remakes, because of inflated development budgets. So we have these inflated prices on game consoles, they keep going up. We also have the inflated development budgets, which is actually just resulting in us getting less games. I mean, even with like the PS5, like, yeah, I do think PlayStation has more games than Xbox. But even still, that dwindles away because some of them are cross-generational PS4, which really holds back the PS5 version of the games. The games are coming out on PC, granted a year or 2 later, which I think is a way healthier way to do it than Xbox. But again, Xbox isn't selling hardware. If they kept the games exclusive on Xbox for a year or 2, they're still not gonna buy the Xbox. Like, they threw in the towel. That's why the games are coming day one on PlayStation and PC. Like, they know, they have to know. But yeah, you know, PlayStation, like, the one big game this year was Ghost of Yotai. Like, outside of that, like, which I didn't play Ghost of Tsushima. I hear it's great, but that's in my backlog. So because I haven't played that, I'm not playing this one. I'm not excited for this one this year. So there is like no PlayStation games this year either. Last year we had Astrobot, which is one of the best like PlayStation games of the PS5 generation. I think Insomniac's been doing great. They had Ratchet and Clank and two Spider-Man games. Of course, Miles Morales being cross generational, but still, if you want to include that, those are good. But still, compared to like the Xbox 360 era, when Xbox and PlayStation were really competitive, uh, you can tell right now that the output of games, and even still, like you can say the inflated dev budget, but they can de-scope these games. Like not every game needs to be this 80-hour open world game. I don't know if that's something that with like Breath of the Wild, you know, was so popular that every game needed to be this giant open world game, and they started this development on these games like 8 years ago, and it's taken forever to make them. Then you need to make a sequel to the game, so that one has to be bigger and better, and it's just this huge slippery slope. And instead of making brand new smaller games because they're risky, they're going the route of remastering old games like Gears of War Reloaded, Elder Scrolls Oblivion remastered, really playing it safe to hit that budget, 30 $40 30 40 $50 titles, which I think is really going to blow up over the next 10 years as we get into this inflated market. Let's look at the Switch 2. $450. Yes, that's expensive, okay? That is expensive. Just because I can afford it doesn't mean it's not expensive. But with Xbox raising the price up to like $800, and then you have the ROG Ally handheld Xbox thing, which is going to be like $800 to $1,000. PS5 Pro is what, $750 or something? I'm not sure if that's with or without the disc drive. Those price increases, just those price increases alone is starting to make the Switch 2 now suddenly feel affordable. It's like half the price of the 2 terabyte Xbox Series X. Why would you buy the Xbox Series X like right now in 2025, especially knowing that next gen's coming around the corner? But I also kind of feel like that these price increases is almost like, I don't know, setting the stage for it's like, oh, the 2 terabyte Xbox Series X is $800. Well, now we have the new Xbox Series Z or ZX2 or whatever, 2 terabytes, $1,000. Like, I don't know. Maybe they do like what Nintendo's doing. Nintendo sells the Switch 1 being sold, even though they raised the price of the Switch 1. And then, so now like the Xbox Series X is just like positioned for that. And I don't know, maybe they switch to an online order. They don't have it in retail stores. They don't stock it, but you can like buy it from them if you want to. So it's really low stock. And it's like, if you want it, sure, you can sell it. Again, they could be in that position just because Xbox is, under Microsoft, and they can just like allow that, I suppose, because they have the money and resources to do that. Same with PlayStation. They have this mid-gen refresh, which is like not even needed. I'm the demo. I'm in the. I don't know. I'm in the demographic and the the income bracket to afford a PS5 Pro. But I skipped on that one because I did get the PlayStation VR 2. Feel a little burnt on that. Like, where are the games for that? Where are the games for the PS5? I mean, again, Xbox, I've said before, basically has no games, no exclusive games on Xbox. Anything you can play on Xbox, you can play on PC or PS5. So why would you buy an $800 Xbox Series X when you can buy, PS5 Pro for cheaper? But, I think they're raising those prices, and then, so even with like the PS6, if they have their handheld version or a cheaper SKU, cheaper than what? They have the $1,000 PlayStation, and then they have the cheaper like $600 version with like the PlayStation Series S. Yeah, I don't know, like the $450 Switch 2, which people are complaining about right now, is suddenly over time, over the next 10 years, going to feel a little more affordable. And of course, Nintendo's not out of the water of this. Like, I think the Switch 2 is going to go up in price. I'm sure that's going to go up to $500, maybe even next year. They've kind of planted the seeds with some comments saying that when they up the prices of all the accessories, they said that the Switch 2 is going to remain $450 throughout the rest of the year. And I don't know why they would specify that if they weren't already planning on a price increase down the line. Maybe, just get that initial user base propped up during the launch window and then raise the prices. I don't know. Yeah, and you see, like, you don't even see consoles go down in price ever. The best you get is a bundle of a digital-only game, which, there's no bill of material costs for that. And plus, like the digital game, like with Mario Kart World, like they want you to be digital. It's less they have to spend to ship and manufacture games, and there's a way higher just profit margin on it. So they want you to have break the ice open for a digital library, so that way you can keep adding to it. I don't know. Where does it go? So Xbox is basically given up and thrown in the towel. They're putting their games on PlayStation and PC, a bit of Switch too. And so, PlayStation 5 has been left largely unchecked this generation. And I think that's one of the reasons why, they also have not had a really big output of first party games. There have been first party games slowly dwindling away as they release on PC. But they have released exclusives, even if they be timed exclusive, which gives them more of a reason to have a PS5 this generation than an Xbox Series X, which is why I spent most of my time on the PlayStation 5 this generation. But what have we seen Sony do left unchecked? They tried it since they basically won the console war against Xbox. Again, Nintendo's in their own lane. They've been out of the console war for a while. So Xbox throwing the towel means there's no more console war, no more competition, bad for consumers. What does PlayStation do with all this time? They try to enter this new war of the live service game wars. And how did that go out? They had 13 or 14 games in development, and 9 of them got canceled. One of them was Concord, which was live for 2 weeks. I don't know what there was I don't know was if there's an Uncharted one or there was a Last of Us one that's supposed to be a live service canceled. It canceled a Spider-Man live service. Everything tried to have its live service version, which I think is just so backwards. I don't know why not every franchise didn't get a VR game instead. They had that hardware that they were trying to push, but they tried to do this live service game. It's not scalable, so that failed. And now what are we doing? So they're still trying to grow outside of okay, we can try to sell more systems, but people aren't buying them because they're too expensive. Release on PC because PC gamers are pretty confident aren't going to switch over. Try to release some games on PC because of these inflated dev costs that they caused themselves. They're trying to make up money for it. What, Spider-Man was $300 million. That's why you're seeing these games on other platforms, because they can't make $300 million of revenue on the PS5, and then plus profit on top of that. So they release on PC to try and make a little more money. They try to backport it to PS4 to try to make a little more money. And now what they're releasing on Xbox, like Helldivers 2, that comes on Xbox to try to just get more players to buy more microtransactions. What are you going to see next? You're going to see the handheld wars coming up. We already know that Xbox has the ROG Ally, which I think is a stepping stone. They're probably going to make another dedicated handheld to coincide with their next generation console. But then you hear rumors of PlayStation doing the same thing, that they're going to have their PlayStation console plus the handheld hybrid. They want to compete with Nintendo. But with these Xbox and the PlayStation ones, I don't think they're going to be able to compete at the $450 price point. So again, although the Switch 2 seems very expensive right now, by the end of the generation, it's going to be wow, that was actually I think over time it's going to seem like the cheaper option. You got the $80 games as those goes up. I know Microsoft tried doing it, but they rolled back because they're not in the position to be able to do that. They've pretty much lost the console war against Sony. They can't compete against Nintendo. They cannot afford the $80 games. Nintendo can do it because they have the diehard fans. They're in their own lane. Whatever PlayStation, Xbox does doesn't really affect Nintendo. Again, they also have a good output, at least one first-party game a month, which is a lot more than what we're getting from Sony. Yeah, we might be getting that similar to Xbox, but a lot of that is Activision and Blizzard and stuff that would have came out on PlayStation anyway. They're just getting a cut of all of it. And if anything, now being under Xbox, good for them that they're getting a cut of it, but it's bad for the studio, it's bad for the consumers, because Xbox has asked, so many developers to close down studios. I would not want to be a studio and get acquired by Microsoft. So yeah, cool for them. But at the same time, from Xbox position, they do have Game Pass, which is okay. I prefer to own my stuff because, subscription prices, they just keep going up over time. I think Disney Plus has just got a $2 price increase. So if you have if you have 10 streaming services between video streaming and, gaming, and they all go up $2, that's $20 a month. That's $240 a year. $240, I could buy a bunch of movies and have them forever. Or, buy, even at $80 a game, you can get 3 games and have them forever. 3, in this day of age, brand new modern games if they were $80 games, but they lasted like 60 hours or something, that would last. That could last me a whole year right there. So when it comes to the gaming crash, and if things scale back, um, yeah, there could be Game Pass, and that might be what they want. Like, why buy an $1,000 console when I can play, get Game Pass and just play it on my smart TV? Because maybe the streaming gets better by then too. You got to think of the next generation of kids. We used to rent from the game store. I'm not gonna buy my kids an $800 Xbox. Probably get them a Switch 2 at like $450. That'd be a very big gift. But they're gonna start with our old Switch ones. But when it comes time, if they're interested in Xbox games, at that point, it's like, okay, maybe Game Pass could be a thing at like that certain age. Or if I was in high school, Game Pass would have been very great. I had a lot of time. I would have been able to play that. And again, even if the industry crashed, like I own a bunch of games already. I have a huge backlog of games. I could either just live off my backlog for a while. I could replay games. Um, if everything goes up in price, whether it be games, movies, books, food, utilities, mortgages, all that. If all that goes up in price, and right now maybe I can buy multiple games a month. Right now, if I can only buy like 1 or 2 or 3 games per year, at that point, I can play the new games. I can work on my backlog. Um, there's game sales all the time, like on Steam, real cheap. I think like at the last sale, one big stand was like Borderlands 2 for like $3. Like I could live off of that. I could live off retro. If I was forced to only play GameCube, PS2, and Xbox, and like order used games online, I could do that. Or of course, we can get into the emulation. So it's like, in which I'm already set up, and I have like all of like the files and all the knowledge and everything to do. I just choose not to do that right now because like I may as well keep that in my back pocket for if there is a crash and there's no new good games coming out. They're super expensive, and like just no one's buying new games anymore. New games aren't coming out. They're all broken. Look at Borderlands 4, it's just broken mess. I can live off the old stuff. So that's why I've always kind of been like a modern gamer for a long time, keeping my old stuff. Like I still love retro. I still play every once in a while. But like, 95% of my time is modern. And I also like 95% is not really replays, which like when I do replay a game, I generally love it. And there's so much I could replay, so much backlog. Like you think about how many PS4 or Xbox One games you can get dirt cheap. That's the thing about the next Xbox. So like, if it doesn't have Steam integration or PC storefront, so Epic Games Store and GOG, I don't think I'm gonna pick it up, and I don't think it's gonna have a disk drive because of the handheld version. I don't. They want you to have a digital library. They want you to be able digital. I don't think it's gonna have a disk drive. If it has an attachable one, then I'll probably pick it up. I mean, if there's no disk drive and there's still the Steam integration, I might get it just so then I can then just keep buying really cheap Steam games on sale. I try whenever there's a Steam sale, a PlayStation sale, Nintendo sale. I do try to pick up a couple games, build my digital libraries up, just to hedge my bets on if there's like a big crash. Because I don't think like any of these companies can go out of business. Probably recession is a better term, which we've kind of been in that for just ever since the Xbox One, PS4 generation. There's been way less games than the Xbox 360 and PS3 generation when it comes to Xbox and PlayStation, the two who are really at war with each other. Again, Nintendo has a great output of games. Finally getting third-party support. While it's still choppy, I think it's going to get better over the generation. The lack of dev kits, I think, is a huge impact for this launch window. I'm not worried at all about Nintendo. I worry about them continuing to raise prices and like $50 amiibos. That's crazy. That's they're really leaning into the collection market, and that's part of the crash, and that's going to outprice a lot of people. And if you're outpriced, I don't know. There's whether you do emulation, whether you just buy games on steep sale on what on any of the storefronts, Xbox, Nintendo, Steam, PlayStation, you can totally live off of that. You can live off of streaming like Game Pass, which is totally cool to do for like a year or two. I wouldn't do it for too long, but like if I don't know, to give them some more time, like hopefully these companies get their acts together and are able to produce smaller scoped games at more affordable prices to get people back into it. I think like there's a huge higher upper management problem that's really holding that whole thing back, and probably just also just like the talent of the developers has been getting worse over time. I don't know, man. If everything crashes tomorrow and I can't buy a single new game for the rest of my life, I'm good. Like there's enough to play that I own already. There's enough out there in the wild that I could pick up and enjoy, whether it be through emulation or just at retro game stores. If prices go up way too much, which also just if you're thinking about buying a new Xbox or PlayStation 6 when they come out for the next generation, you should just start saving now. Assume they're gonna be $1,000. Start saving $20 a week, $20 a paycheck or whatever, and then you'd be able to afford it day one. Like don't wait till the last minute to be surprised. Like if you really want to be a part of that, save now. And it's probably best to buy it day one because they're only going to go up in price at this point. I don't know if we're going to go back to a time where they go down in price. To be quite honest, because if they keep going up in price, both games and hardware, then that helps make Xbox Game Pass look more attractive. And then you can just play it on the smart TV, buy a controller, buy a subscription to Game Pass, and just play that way. Which you can get some time out of in some years. And if you're in your 30s like me, who knows? We may only have 30 more years left of gaming before like our hands start hurting or we die. Like who knows? So it's like, is it that big of a deal to not always be playing physical? Like if I have to play Game Pass for, I don't know, 5 years or something at some point in my life, like cool, whatever. At some point, like the collection's gonna get its time and use out of it. Pass it down, play more emulation, play more subscription service, play more retro, whatever. But yeah, when it comes to new games, not to worry about Nintendo producing quality games. I worry about the prices going up. Of course, like again, right now I can afford it, but if food and everything else goes up, then I have to start getting more limited on that, especially when it comes to day one. But if there's down years, you can pick up any game from the store since the beginning. The Xbox One, PS4, Switch generation, they're all digital on the eShops and the digital storefronts. That there's something to play. And you don't even have to leave the house to get it. Whether you subscribe to Game Pass or you pick up a game online, like you don't have to be there and playing every game day one. And then there's the live service games like Fortnite. How many people have spent like an entire year of their lives on Fortnite or League of Legends or Overwatch? Of course, like this fad, I feel like is dying out. A lot of gamers realize that they've been being milked and they're just like, human batteries like from the Matrix and keeping these live services alive. And it's kind of a waste of time, of attention, a waste of money. But that said, I haven't played a live service game for a long time. There's like a new one. There's some Dragon Ball Z MOBA just came out. I kind of want to play it, but I know what a live service game is. And it's like, if I do that, I'm not playing these other games. And again, something like a free-to-play live service game, if they're still around during a video game crash or recession, and I can't buy any games, then like that's a great time to play a free-to-play game, to play emulated games, to go into my collection of games, our own replay games, buy games on cheap and only play sales. Like you don't have to buy the $80 game when it comes out. Of course, with Nintendo, they're probably not going to drop in price, but Xbox trying to do an $80 game, like come on, get out of here, get out of here. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know why you'd buy an Xbox Series X at $800 right now. New hardware's coming out in a year or two, most likely. And yeah, I don't know. It's so hard to believe that this is the time, and it's just such bad just management and them not knowing what we want. I mean, the rise of indie games. What are some of the biggest games right now? Hollow Knight, Silk Song, and Hades 2. A couple indie games, smaller scale. What, $30 to $50? What, Hollow Knight was like $20. Hades was $30. Of course, those are the digital versions. I think Hades is $50 on at least Switch 2 because of that game key card tax, or not the game key card tax, but like just like the cartridge tax. Yeah, I don't know why big studios like Xbox or Sony can't make a game at that price tag, at a $30 price tag. We just, I think of like Horizon Forbidden West with every side quest being fully motion captured animated. I don't need this. I don't need these cutscenes, and I don't need them to be full blown motion captured. Like they had to be so expensive. And just for what? For what? That's bloat that should just get axed just completely. but it won't. Sony tried their Sony tried their live service war because they were left unchecked. Didn't go well. We didn't get many games from it. Now we're gonna have Xbox and Sony try to compete against Nintendo and Steam Deck in this handheld PC war, and it's just gonna be another waste of time. Just a huge waste of time. Waste of another generation trying to do this. I don't think they're gonna dethrone Nintendo when it comes to the handheld gaming market. I don't know. Xbox's future probably is Game Pass and just as a third party publisher. Just because they're owned by Microsoft, they can do this weird stuff with hardware partnerships. I might get the new Xbox if it has the PC game storefront, so I can put it under the TV. And have a console like experience, be able to buy games on Steam, get my free Epic Game Store games, have it all right there. It'd be nice if there's a disc drive too. Probably won't get the PS6 when that comes out. But again, this stuff's trying to be $1,000. I probably should start saving now also. I should probably preach or practice what I preach when it comes to that. But again, PlayStation I think is going to be held back a generation again with them trying to do handheld and console. And it's like, I don't know. I don't think they're going to have dedicated handheld games like the Vita days. I think it's going to be like, oh, it's the one shop, different ways to play. All your games play it anywhere. Very, very much like what Xbox is doing with the ROG Ally. I mean, you can argue it's the same thing that Nintendo's doing, but who knows if it's going to be dockable or not. So yeah, all in all, I do think a crash or a recession's coming. It's just, I think the handheld war coming up is going to be a huge waste of time, money, and resources. I don't think we need a new generation right now. I think that if there was a console war with Xbox and PlayStation, I think it would be way better for us consumers. There'd be way better games coming out. And in the end, I'm not too worried about it because, again, if I can't buy another game for the rest of my life, I'm good. I'm good. I'll still have a fun time. Lots to play. Lots that's out there in existence. If every company crashes and they can't produce another game, they're already out there, especially the physical copies. Yeah, I mean maybe servers would shut down and then some of my digital stuff wouldn't work, but that's why I don't put all my eggs in one basket. But I do have digital stuff. Don't get me wrong. Like those sales are too good to pass up. Anyway, guys, what do you think? You think a crash is coming or a recession? You think we've been in it for a long time already? I know I do. Are you worried about it? And or are you like me and you're like, like honestly, like I could use some down years and work on my backlog. There's tons of games that I've had to put on the back burner. And like I said earlier in the video, I haven't played Ghost of Tsushima yet. When am I going to do that? I need a crash to happen. I need some game. I need less games to come out. And dang Nintendo are making one new game a month. I can't keep up. Like if Nintendo could just take a little break, then I could play Ghost of Tsushima or something, Yeah, I don't know. What do you guys think? Let me know down in the comments. See you in the next video.